The weapon no one believed in the shipyard hung in the dark void above Earth like a sleeping giant. From a distance, it looked quite just another orbital station. But inside, the air buzzed with tension. Engineers ran between control stations. Pilots checked systems. Technicians in heavy suits moved crates of strange glowing coils. At the very center of the shipyard sat the weapon. It wasn't a missile. It wasn't a laser. It was a single massive railgun so big it stretched nearly the entire length of the station. Its twin magnetic rails gleamed silver under the lights, each one humming faintly, as if holding back a storm. The humans called it Project Thunderstrike. For months, whispers about the weapon had spread across the galaxy. Some alien races believed it was a bluff. Others thought it was just human propaganda to make themselves look dangerous. Now, they were about to see it with their own eyes. High above the station, in a crystal-walled observation platform, the Alien Council had gathered. Representatives from more than a dozen species floated or sat in their hovering seats, their expressions ranging from bored to amused. "This is a waste of time," hissed a tall insectoid delegate from the Tevar Dominion. "Humans think magnets, and metal rods can scare empires. How primitive." A scaled ambassador from the Crethi Empire chuckled. If they could build anything truly powerful, they would have done so decades ago. Only one alien remained silent, a cloaked figure, from a race known for ancient wars. His glowing eyes stayed fixed on the railgun below. On the station's main control deck, Commander Elena Voss stood in front of a giant window overlooking the weapon. Her uniform was crisp, her face calm, but her heart beat like a drum. This wasn't just a test. This was a statement to the galaxy. "All systems check," said Chief Engineer Malik, scanning a data board. "Magnetic rails charged to 70%. Reactor stable. Projectile locked." Elena nodded. "Begin pre-fire sequence." The room fell silent as the station's lights dimmed slightly. Massive power lines began to glow, feeding energy into the railguns. Coils. The hum deepened into a low vibration that everyone could feel in their bones. Up in the Alien Council platform, a few delegates shifted uncomfortably. "What is that energy reading?" asked a thin, bird-like alien, its feathers puffing up. A technician at the back answered, "Our scanners might be wrong, but it's showing output beyond council safety limits." The insectoid delegate scoffed. "Scanners glitch. Humans can't reach those levels." But the cloaked figure's eyes narrowed. "No, they can." Down in the station, the projectile waited in the loading chamber. It was simple, just a dense rod of reinforced alloy. No explosives, no warhead, just speed. Malik looked at Elena. "Once we fire this, there's no going back. They'll never see us the same way." "That's the point," Elena said softly. She turned to the comms officer. "Signal the council that the demonstration begins in 60 seconds. In the observation deck, alien delegates leaned forward. Some wore smirks, ready to watch the humans embarrass themselves. Others tapped at their translators, taking notes for their governments. The insectoid delegate muttered to the Crethi ambassador, "Watch, either it misfires or it barely scratches the target." But then, the railgun's magnetic coils flared to life, flooding the chamber with a blinding blue-white light. The hum became a roar. The entire shipyard trembled. And for the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed the alien faces. The target for the test was an asteroid parked far beyond the moon, roughly the size of a small city. It had been chosen because it was dense, hard, and supposedly indestructible. Elena raised her hand. "Fire." Malik slammed the activation key. The railgun spoke. There was no explosion, only a blinding flash as the projectile ripped through the magnetic rails and vanished into space at hypersonic speed. The shock wave rattled the observation deck even. though it was hundreds of kilometers away. In less than 3 seconds, the asteroid was hit. The impact wasn't loud in space, but the visuals were devastating. The asteroid didn't just crack, it vaporized. One moment it was a solid mass. The next it was a cloud of molten fragments scattering into the blackness. On the council platform, silence fell. Even the insectoid delegates' mandibles froze. Mid-word, "Scanners," the Crethi ambassador barked. What was the velocity? The technician's voice trembled. Confirmed. 0.01 light speed. No known weapon outside myth has achieved that. The cloaked figure leaned forward, his glowing eyes locking on the human commander through the observation glass. They have crossed a line the galaxy did not think they could. Back in the control deck, Elena allowed herself the smallest smile. Reload the chamber. Prepare for the second shot. Malik looked at her. Same power? She shook her head. No, this time full capacity. Some of the crew stared at her in shock. Full capacity meant 10 times the energy of the first shot. And up in the observation platform, the alien delegates began to realize something none of them wanted to admit. This was only the beginning. Mockery from the stars. The railgun's first shot was still being replayed across every monitor in the orbital station. The asteroid's destruction was so fast, so complete, that even the engineers were speechless. But on the crystal-walled observation platform, not everyone was impressed. It was only an asteroid. The insectoid delegate from the Tevar Dominion sneered, its mandibles clicking. Rocks don't shoot back. A true test would be against a warship. The Crethi ambassador leaned back in his seat, his scaled arms folded. Impressive display, yes, but wasteful. What sane commander spends that much energy on a single shot? Only the cloaked figure remained silent, still staring at the massive weapon below. His glowing eyes never moved. In the control deck, Commander Elena Voss could see the council members on the viewing screens. She could hear their faint voices over the secure channel mockery disguised as casual talk. They think we're showing off, Chief Engineer Malik muttered. That's fine, Elena replied calmly. Let them think that. Until the second shot. Power crews were already moving across the railgun's spine, replacing the spent rails with fresh magnetic coils. Cargo drones brought another dense alloy projectile to the loading chamber. Charging sequence ready, Malik reported. This time, full power? Elena nodded. Yes, they need to understand what this really means. On the council platform, a few delegates had grown restless. The bird-like envoy from the Viren clans fluffed its feathers and sighed. How long must we wait? Humans are slow even when trying to impress. Patience, the Crethi ambassador said with a smug grin. Perhaps they want time to add special effects to the next shot. Laughter rippled through the alien seats, thin, arrogant laughter. But the cloaked figure finally spoke, his voice low and heavy. You laugh now, but you should be afraid. Do you not see what they've done? The insectoid delegate waved, a claw dismissively. What they've done is waste enough energy to power a city for a century. Fear? No. The cloaked figure's eyes narrowed. Fear, yes. Because I have seen what happens when a young species builds a weapon it was never meant to wield. In the control deck, Malik's hands flew across the control board. Magnetic rails at 100% capacity. Reactor output. Holding steady. Elena's gaze was locked on the status displays. Target locked? Locked, the targeting officer confirmed. Simulation target. Captured warship hull, reinforced with triple-layered armor. This wasn't just another asteroid. This was a decommissioned alien battleship, one that had survived wars most humans had only read about. In the observation platform. The image of the target ship appeared on the HOLO- screen. The Crethi ambassador leaned forward, slightly more interested. At least they picked something worth shooting. The insectoid delegate smirked. Let's see if their toy can dent it. Back in the control deck, the railgun's magnetic coils flared again brighter this time, flooding the chamber with blue-white light so intense the crew had to lower their visors. The hum rose deeper and deeper until the deck plates shook under their feet. On the platform, alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. Their sensors began warning them about dangerous energy spikes from the weapon below. The bird-like envoy tilted. Its head. Is that safe? The cloaked figure answered without looking away. No, not for them. Not for us. Not for anyone. Elena's voice cut through the noise. Fire. Malik slammed the activation key. The projectile vanished down the rails with a flash, so bright it briefly blinded the station's external camera's dot in less than 2 seconds. It struck the target battleship. There was no explosion at first. Just a perfect, clean hole through the hull. Then the ship began to break apart, its armor plates warping and twisting before bursting into molten fragments. The kinetic force was so great that the rear half of the battleship spun away, tumbling into deep space like a discarded toy. On the observation platform, the laughter stopped. The insectoid delegate's mandibles hung open. The Creethy ambassadors. Smug grin faded to a tight line. The cloaked figure simply said, and that was at full power. The bird-like envoy blinked rapidly. Full power? That means, the cloaked figure interrupted. They can erase fleets. Entire fleets. In the control deck, the crew was silent, watching the debris drift on the screens. Elena broke the silence. Send the results to the council, and make sure they know that was one gun. Malik glanced at her. One gun on one station. Elena's eyes hardened. Imagine 100. On the platform, tension filled the air. Some delegates exchanged nervous glances. Others tapped hurried messages to their governments. But before anyone could speak, a council security officer approached the cloaked figure and whispered something into his ear. His eyes glowed brighter. How long? He asked. 3 days. The officer replied. The cloaked figure rose from his seat and looked out at the human railgun. To the council, he said grimly, you should enjoy the view while you can. In 3 days, someone will come to test it for real. The first shot 3 days later. The sky above Earth was no longer empty. The warning from the cloaked alien had come true. An unknown fleet had entered human space. They didn't announce themselves. They didn't send diplomats. They came in silence, moving like predators. From the orbital defense stations, the incoming ships looked black against the star sleek, curved hulls bristling with weapons. They were the Zorth, a warlike species feared across multiple sectors. The alien council knew their name. The humans did not. But the council didn't warn Earth. They didn't need to. The Zorth had made their intentions clear. Inside the human railgun station, alarms blared. Commander Elena Voss stood at the main window, looking at the tactical displays. How many ships? She asked. 17 confirmed, Malik replied. 3 heavy cruisers, 14 attack craft, all armed. The targeting officer added, they're holding formation, but they're moving straight toward us. In the crystal-walled council platform, alien delegates watched in tense silence. The insectoid delegates' mandibles twitched. Why would the Zorth risk this? Do they want war with the council? The Creethy ambassador snorted. They don't care about politics. They care about testing the humans. They think Earth is weak. The cloaked figure said nothing, but his glowing eyes stayed locked on the human railgun below. Railgun coils charged to 50%, Malik reported. Not enough, Elena said. We go full power. Malik hesitated. First shot at full capacity against live ships? If we miss, we won't, Elena said firmly. Target their lid cruiser. The station's magnetic rails began to glow brighter and brighter, flooding the chamber with harsh blue light. The hum returned, low and deep, vibrating through the bones of every crew member dot up in the observation platform. Several aliens covered their eyes against the glare. The bird-like envoy muttered, "That's too much power, even for them." The cloaked figure answered quietly, "That's not too much. That's just enough." The targeting lock beeped. "Lead Zorth cruiser in range," the targeting officer said. Elena raised her hand. "Fire." The railgun's shot wasn't a beam. It was a spear of pure speed. The projectile left the rails in a burst of light, crossing the distance to the Zorth ship in less than 2 seconds. Impact. The cruiser didn't explode in a fireball. It simply ceased to exist in its center. A perfect hole punched through its armor, so clean it was almost surgical. The kinetic shock ripped the ship in half, sending both halves tumbling apart. One moment, the Zorth had a flagship. The next, they didn't. Gasps filled the observation platform. Even the insectoid delegate was silent now. The Crethi ambassador leaned forward, eyes wide. That was impossible. The cloaked figure's voice was calm. No, that was human. In the control deck, Malik checked the readings. Direct hit. Target destroyed. Projectile velocity confirmed at .01 light speed. The comms officer spoke urgently. Zorth formation breaking. Some ships are pulling back. Others are still coming. Alana's jaw tightened. Then reload. Outside the station, the remaining Zorth ships opened fire. Bright green energy bolts streaked through space, smashing into the station's shields. The impact rattled the deck, but the shields held. Inside, the loading crew slid a second projectile into the railgun's chamber. The magnetic coils began to glow again, brighter than before. Malik looked at Elena. "Second target? Pick the one closest to our cities," she said coldly. The observation platform was now dead silent. The delegates leaned forward, watching. The humans worked with a cold precision that no one had expected from such a young species. The bird-like envoy whispered, "If they survive this battle, no one will ever challenge them again." The cloaked figure's eyes narrowed. "You're wrong. If they survive this, they will challenge us." Back in the control deck, the second shot was ready. Elena gave the order. The railgun fired again. This time, the projectile smashed through 2 Zorth attack craft in one line, turning both into drifting scrap. The remaining enemy ships broke formation completely. Half fled at full speed, the others firing wildly in frustration. But the Zorth had made a mistake. They had revealed themselves to the humans. And humanity never forgot an enemy. The truth about the railgun, the battlefield outside Earth's orbit, had gone strangely quiet. The Zorth fleet was in retreat, leaving behind twisted wrecks and drifting debris. But no one on the human railgun station was celebrating yet. Commander Elena Voss stood at the main display, her hands clasped behind her back. "Status?" Chief Engineer Malik scanned the readings. "Shields at 70%. Reactor stable. 2 projectiles left in this cycle." The targeting officer added, "No hostile ships within firing range for now." Up in the crystal-walled Alien Council platform, the delegates spoke in low, uneasy voices. "That was not the weapon I expected," muttered the insectoid delegate from the Tevar Dominion, its mandibles twitching. "It was beyond anything the Council's own fleets carry," admitted the Crethi ambassador. His scaled fingers tapped nervously. On the armrest, 1 station, 1 gun, and it destroyed a war fleet. The bird-like envoy ruffled its feathers, still trying to mask its fear. Impressive, but how often can they fire it? Surely such a weapon needs days to recharge. The cloaked figure finally spoke, his voice deep and cold. "No, it is worse than you think." Back in the control deck, Malik stepped closer to Elena. We should tell them. Elena didn't look at him. Tell them what? That what they saw today? He lowered his voice. It wasn't even half power. The room fell silent. The crew members nearby turned to look at her in disbelief. The targeting officer blinked. You're saying we can push it further? Elena finally faced them. The tests before the council visit? That asteroid we hit at 70%? The warship at full? She shook her head. That wasn't full. That was what they thought was full. Up on the council platform, a secure transmission request came through from the human command deck. The alien delegates exchanged uneasy glances before the Creethy ambassador accepted it. Alana's face appeared on the central holoscreen. I imagine you have questions, she said calmly. The insectoid delegate leaned forward. We do. How often can you fire this weapon before your systems burn out? Elena didn't smile. We can fire once every 5 minutes without overheating. Faster if we ignore safety limits. Gasps rippled through the alien chamber. The bird-like envoy's wings stiffened. Impossible. No weapon with that energy output could sustain. It's possible, Elena cut in. Because you're looking at the first version. We've built 3 more, each one stronger. In the control deck, Malik stepped in front of the camera. And here's the part you really need to understand. The shots you've seen? They were limited to keep from destabilizing the station's orbit. If we unleash the railgun's true capacity, it won't just destroy ships. Elena finished his sentence. It will crack moons, and if we target a planet, we can strip the surface bare in one hit. The alien delegates stared at her in stunned silence. The cloaked figure finally broke it. Why reveal this now? Elena's eyes narrowed. Because the Zorath aren't gone. You know it. I know it. They will return with a bigger fleet. And when they do, the Council will have to decide stand with us, or watch what happens when we use the railgun at maximum. The Creethy ambassador shifted uncomfortably. That's a threat. No, Elena said. That's a fact. You just watched us kill ships you claimed were untouchable. If we wanted to threaten you, you wouldn't be sitting there now. The insectoid delegate clicked its mandibles nervously. And if we refuse to share the weapon's design? Elena's tone was flat. We're not offering it. This is ours. Built by humans, for humans. But we're willing to defend our allies if they prove they're worth defending. The tension in the chamber was so thick, it felt like gravity outside. The station, human salvage crews were already towing wreckage from the destroyed Zorath ships. Pieces of alien armor floated through the void, some still glowing from the railgun's impact in the distance. The surviving Zorath vessels faded into deep space, but not before sending a final encrypted transmission. The linguist decoded it. Minutes later, her face went pale. It says, she read aloud, "We have seen your thunder. We will return with fire." On the council platform, the cloaked figure turned away from the holoscreen and spoke to no one in particular. They've awakened something the galaxy isn't ready for. The insectoid delegate swallowed hard. You mean the Zorath? The cloaked figure's glowing eyes dimmed. No, I mean the humans. The decision to fire again. The silence after the battle didn't last long. Less than 12 hours after the first railgun engagement, long-range sensors detected movement at the edge of the Sol system. The readings were bigger than anything the Human Defense Network had ever seen. Malik's voice was tight as he read the data aloud. Multiple contacts. Correction hundreds. Zorath fleet. Inbound. Estimated arrival. 14 hours. The command deck went silent. Elena didn't flinch. They want revenge. Up in the alien council platform, panic spread quickly. This is madness. The insectoid delegate hissed. We told you they would come back stronger. The Creethy ambassador slammed a scaled fist onto the table. They're bringing enough ships to burn Earth to ash. The bird-like envoy's feathers puffed out. And now? Now the humans will have no choice but to use that weapon at its limit. The cloaked figure simply whispered, "If they do, the galaxy will change forever." Back on the railgun station, the crew gathered around the main tactical display. The incoming Zorath fleet was enormous. Rows upon rows of red threat markers filled the holographic map. "They'll hit Mars first," the targeting officer said grimly. "Destroy the colonies, then push for Earth." Elena studied the projection for a moment, then looked at Malik. "We're going to need the big shot." He froze. "You mean maximum capacity?" "Elena, we've never tested that outside a simulation." "We'll test it now," she replied. Malik shook his head. "At full power, the recoil alone could tear this station apart. And if it doesn't, it could break the rails permanently." Elena's eyes stayed locked on the holographic fleet. "If we don't fire, there won't be a station to save." The Council's secure line lit up. Elena accepted the call, and the alien delegates appeared in the holodisplay above the deck. "You must evacuate," the insectoid delegate said immediately. "The Zorath are too many. Even your weapon can't kill them all." Elena's tone was steady. "It doesn't have to kill them all. It just has to break their will to fight." The Crethi ambassador narrowed his eyes. "And how do you plan to do that?" "By firing the railgun at its true power," Elena said. "We'll make an example they can't ignore." There was silence on the alien side. Then the bird-like envoy spoke. "If you do this, every power in the galaxy will fear you. They will unite against you." "They already fear us," Elena replied. "And if they don't, they should." Malik stepped closer to her as the holocall ended. "If we overcharge the rails, they'll burn out after one shot. It will take weeks to rebuild them." Elena's voice softened. "Then let's make that one shot count." Hours passed as the crew prepared for the most dangerous firing sequence in human history. Massive power conduits were rerouted directly from the station's reactors. Every coil in the railgun was replaced with fresh, reinforced ones. Inside the loading chamber, the projectile was moved into place as solid tungsten rod, reinforced with alien alloys salvaged from the Zorath wreckage. It was heavy enough to crush a tank without even accelerating. At maximum velocity, it would be unstoppable. The Zorath fleet entered the outer solar system. They didn't hide. They didn't slow. They came in a wall of black metal and red energy dot in the council platform. The delegates watched the live feed. The insectoid delegate's voice was sharp. "They mean to erase the humans completely." The cloaked figure's eyes glowed brighter. "They will fail." On the railgun station, the final sequence began. Warning lights flashed red across every console. Malek called out over the rising hum. "Rails charged to 120%. Reactor output at emergency maximum." The deck plates shook violently. The air smelled faintly of ozone. Elena stood tall at the command platform. "Target the largest ship in their fleet." "Target locked," the officer confirmed. She took a breath. "Fire." The station's lights went out for a split second as every ounce of power surged into the railgun. The coils flared white-hot. The projectile ripped through the rails with a thunderclap that echoed even in the vacuum of space. In 2 seconds, it crossed millions of kilometers. The impact was indescribable. The largest Zorath dreadnought didn't just break apart, it vaporized. A shockwave of superheated gas and metal tore through the fleet, shredding dozens of nearby ships in the blast. From the council platform, the alien delegates saw the aftermath in stunned silence. Hole in the Zorath formation, so wide you could have flown a moon through it. On the human command deck, Malik whispered, "Rails are gone. She's dead after that shot." Elena nodded. Slowly. "Good, because so are they." The Zorath fleet wavered. The surviving ships churned, their formation collapsing into retreat. The fear was clear now. They would not risk another shot like that. For the second time in days, humanity had driven them away. But this time, it was with a single round. The shot heard across the stars. The railgun station floated in silence. Its coils were cracked, its rails warped, and most of its power conduits had burned out. The lights flickered across the command deck. But despite the damage, the crew was smiling because they had done the impossible. Commander Elena Voss stood in front of the main display, watching the Zorith retreat. Their once perfect formation was now a chaotic scatter of ships fleeing into the void. The giant hole in their fleet, left by a single human shot, would be remembered for centuries. In the alien council platform, the delegates were silent. No one dared mock the humans now. The insectoid delegate's voice was low, almost grudging. They destroyed the dreadnought with one weapon. The Crethi ambassador's scales shifted uneasily. And if they can do that to the Zorith, they can do it to any of us. The bird-like envoy's feathers were pressed flat, a clear sign of fear. This changes everything. The balance of power is broken. The cloaked figure finally spoke. No, it's been rewritten. Back on the station, Chief Engineer Malik limped to Elena's side, a burn mark across his sleeve. Rails are gone, he said. She's not firing again until we rebuild her from scratch. Elena nodded. That's fine. We only needed one. A comms officer turned from his console. Commander. Incoming transmissions. Dozens. From across the council worlds. Put them through, Elena ordered. Holoscreens lit up around the deck, each showing the face or the alien equivalent of leaders from across the galaxy. Some spoke urgently, others simply stared. You have our respect, said the Crethi warlord, and our caution. This weapon must be shared with the council, the insectoid delegate demanded. Elena's tone was firm. It will not be shared. Humanity will keep the railgun, and we will decide when it's used. The room erupted in alien voices, protests, warnings, thinly veiled threats. Malik leaned close and muttered, They're not asking. They're planning. Elena's eyes stayed locked on the screens. Let them plan. They saw what happens when someone underestimates us. Word of the battle spread faster than light. Within days, the footage was being replayed on every news feed across the galaxy. The image of a single railgun shot vaporizing the Zorith dreadnought became a symbol. Some saw it as hope, others as a warning dot in the markets of distant worlds. Merchants sold crude models of the Thunderstrike shot. Children on human colonies played games pretending to fire it. But in the darker corners of the galaxy, whispers began. If humanity could destroy fleets in a single strike, how long before they started building more? The Zorith, humiliated and furious, sent a message across secure channels. The linguist read it aloud on the command deck. We will return. We will burn your worlds until nothing remains. Elena didn't respond publicly. Instead, she ordered a classified transmission to the United Earth Defense Council. Her message was short. Begin construction of Thunderstrike 2. Weeks later, while the station was still under repair, Elena was summoned to the alien council chamber in person. The great hall was vast, its domed ceiling glowing with starlight projections. Every delegate was present. The insectoid delegate spoke first. Your weapon has disrupted the peace. You have frightened not just the Zorith, but everyone. Good, Elena said without hesitation. The Crethi ambassador's voice was sharp. And if you turn that weapon on us? Elena leaned forward, her gaze sweeping across the chamber. If you ever try to enslave, invade, or destroy humanity, you won't have to imagine it. The room fell into a heavy silence. After the meeting, the cloaked figure approached her alone. His glowing eyes studied her for a moment before he spoke. I have fought in wars longer than your species has existed, he said. I have seen. Planets burn, civilizations fall. And I have learned one thing once. A weapon like yours exists. It will never stop shaping the future. Elena's reply was simple. Then the future had better get used to us. From that day forward, the phrase, "the shot heard across the stars," became part of galactic history. It was not just a story about a battle. It was a warning and a promise that humanity had stepped fully onto the stage of the galaxy dot, and this time, they would not be ignored. Humanity's warning, the railgun station was quiet now. Repairs were slow, but the crew didn't mind. They had already proven what humanity could do. The Zorith fleet was gone. The dreadnought was dust. And the galaxy had seen it all. Commander Elena Voss stood at the viewport, watching Earth rotate below. The planet looked peaceful from here. A blue and green jewel floating in the dark. But she knew peace never lasted long. A chime broke the silence. "Commander," Malik called from the comms console, "the Alien Council is requesting a live broadcast. Not just to them. This will go to every system in their network." Elena nodded. "Patch it through." The lights dimmed and a large holoprojector came to life in the center of the command deck. The faces of dozens of alien leaders appeared, some proud, some angry, some openly afraid. Behind them, crowds of billions would be watching. The insectoid delegate from the Tevar Dominion spoke first. "Humanity's actions have shaken the galaxy. You have changed the balance of power, and many see this as a threat." The Kree. Ambassador leaned forward, his scaled hands steepled. "There are those who believe the railgun should be dismantled before it is used again." A murmur of agreement rippled through the alien leaders. Elena's voice was calm. "No, the railgun will not be dismantled. It will remain operational, and there will be more." The council chamber erupted in noise outrage. Warnings, demands when the noise died down. The bird-like envoy asked sharply, "And what message do you think this sends to the galaxy?" Elena's gaze hardened. "It sends this message. Humanity will not be prey." Her voice carried across the entire network. For centuries, we were ignored. For decades, we were underestimated. We asked for peace, and we were told to wait our turn. We defended our borders, and you laughed at our ships. But when the Zorith came to destroy us, we stood alone. We survived, and we will survive again. She stepped closer to the camera. "The railgun is not a weapon for conquest. It is a promise to every friend and every enemy in the galaxy. If you stand with us, we will defend you. If you stand against us, you will never see the second shot." Silence fell in the council feed. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. Others stared at her with thinly veiled respect or fear. The cloaked figure's voice finally broke the quiet. "Then it begins." Elena met his gaze. "It already has." Back on the station, Malik turned to her after the transmission ended. "That was bold." "It wasn't bold," she said. "It was necessary." He frowned. "And if they decide to test us?" She allowed herself a small smile. "Then we reload." In the weeks that followed, construction began on Thunderstrike. 2 in a hidden shipyard. New coils, stronger rails, faster loading systems, everything learned from the first weapon was being improved. The galaxy buzzed with rumors. Some said the humans were building a fleet of railgun platforms. Others believed they were working on something even more dangerous. The truth was simple. Humanity had stepped out of the shadows, and they weren't going back. On a quiet night, aboard the station, Elena stood alone in the observation deck. She thought about the battles to come, about the allies who would stand beside them, and the enemies who would not. She looked out into the endless dark and whispered to herself, "Let them come." Because now the galaxy knew humanity would fight. Humanity would endure. And if necessary, Humanity would end wars before they even began. That final broadcast became known across the stars as humanity's warning. For years, it was replayed. In military academies, political chambers, and on the news feeds of distant worlds. Some watched it with pride, others with fear, but no one ever forgot it.